It is time for the one and only, the premier, the only official podcast of Pro Rodeo. Your Chute Bosses are ready, so let's give it a go and talk some rodeo.
Hello everyone and welcome back into another episode of the Chute Bosses. As always, Tanner Barth, Tracy Rink. We got our hats on today, Trace. It's the summer rodeo season and we got a lot of new exciting things happening. And one of those exciting things, look behind us here.
Yeah, new logo. I like it.
Crisp, clean, the Chute Bosses, and a little, what is that, the old Chicago show maybe that they had, or Cheers, that kind of that font. So I like it. Kind of a new rebrand here with our social media coming out on Instagram as well.
Bigger and better. We got great resources here now. We're very excited.
I wish you could get a little bigger, a little taller, but yeah, it's fine.
I won't say anything.
You keep your comments to yourself, Tracy. And let's start it off with some good stuff going on here on the show. Our Pro Rodeo props, and this one's going to go to a real deserving saddle bronc rider, Dawson Hay. You know, he battled injury a year ago, but Dawson Hay is, he was looking for one of those wins to get him back into that conversation. Obviously, it was still pretty early. We're not even into June yet, but he needed a win to bump himself up and put him right in the conversation, and he got that at the world-famous Miles City. Let me read this long title here: Bucking Horse Sell Match Extreme Bronc Ride. Yeah. Think they could add another word to that, maybe?
Junior Rodriguez III.
Yeah.
I don't exactly know what it's going. It's just, but he, as you speak of, he needed to win, and he always had a big win. It seemed that every season he gets that big win. One year he won the Extreme Bronx finale, but you get a huge boost like that, and it's huge for him, A, because it gets him in the top 15 mix, but B, gets him ready for the spring run, and as we get ready for, obviously, the heart of the season, well, I shouldn't say spring, as we get ready for June and into Reno. And Dawson, I mean, when you watch him, and I know you've watched him, he's electric. When he's on, there's probably no one better when he's on. I mean, but he's either really good or really bad at times. I mean, he's got bucked off at times. I know at the NFR that probably he still thinks about. But great rider. It's good to see him back in the mix. Logan's in the mix this year. His brother. So, I'm good to see the Hayes involved.
Yeah, and at that Miles City Bronc match, he had back-to-back identical 90.5-point scores. Get this, he walked out of Montana with $19,336. He went from that 35 mix in the world standings to now he's 17th in the world standings. And, that's kind of a perfect place you want to be, because you're not really the hunted number one in the world, but you're right there where you pick up a weekend rodeo win and, you're in the top 15, maybe even inside the top 10.
And it just speaks to these standalone events we have now with bronc and bull riding. I mean, you can win so much money at these standalones. Ground money, obviously, with the bulls is a huge factor that counts in the standings. But, I mean, $20,000, I mean, that's a pull at like 2 or 3 rodeos. At least. And, I mean, and I just can't imagine the confidence it gave him, because he had a tough season so far for different reasons, and he was riding. He wasn't really injured. He just wasn't getting the scores he wanted or the draws he wanted, maybe.
Yeah, and that's one of those things where, as we get into the month of June, we're headed to, it's foot on the gas pedal from this point basically until September for Cowboys out there trying to make that push. And that all kicks off, Tracy. I know that people are going to be able to see it in the magazine coming up, our most recent digital magazine that'll be released on Friday. But that Reno Rodeo kicks things off, and, that's really a tipping point and a turning point for a lot of guys' seasons and, maybe even some people's careers.
Right. And June 20th to 29th is when Reno runs. And the thing about Reno is if you win Reno, it sets up your entire summer.
It does.
And if you're not doing well and you don't do well there, it kind of like, hey, maybe do I want to keep going down this road? Because at that point, if you're not winning. So, yeah, I mean, there's guys that won. Statler Wrights won it 2 years in a row. There's some guys that never win Reno. Yeah. And Statler won it twice and didn't get to the NFR. And this year, he's right in the mix. So, Reno's just exciting because they have the Extreme Bulls there as part of it. And we saw J.B. Mooney win that when he came to the PRCA. And it literally ignited his season and helped him get to the NFR. So, yeah, that's what it does. I mean, it's kind of that jolt to the veins, jolt to your season to get things going.
Well, you mentioned that, that kicks things off in that into June, and then we go rolling right into Cowboy Christmas, and I think Reno might even be a little bit later this year with it not ending until the 29th. So we're talking like you get done with Reno.
You could almost count Reno into the Cowboy Christmas run, technically. It's so close.
Yeah, with the 29th,
And last year, Ty Harris won almost $41,000 at Cowboy Christmas. I mean, it's just nuts how much money's out there now, and during that run at Cowboy Christmas, guys are going everywhere. And the thing is they save all the rodeos. Yeah. All those guys save their rodeo count. They go to the big winter rodeos. They go to the spring ones they want to go to, and then all of a sudden they gotta fill out the rodeo season. They don't have to count them all, but they're definitely going to run them out to the 70 rodeos or whatever your count is in your event.
And I mean, you always have a chance, you know.
Yeah.
If you're inside that, you know, top 50 or 60, I think anybody within that range has a shot to get to the NFR.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to come down to, can you get the draws? Can you get the calves that you want to make that run and capitalize? Because, you know, a lot of guys talk about in rodeo, what it comes down to is obviously, you know, the draws and what it ends up like, but also capitalizing when you do have that opportunity, because you can't get, you know, let's say explosive skies of Calgary. You know, if you go to a rodeo like Reno and somehow you get explosive skies in the short round, you got to finish top 3. You know, those guys are like, you know, this is an opportunity where if I don't finish in the top 3, it's a missed opportunity, and, you know, might cost them a chance to go to Las Vegas.
Yeah, I mean, and that's exactly it. I mean, these guys are so good going down the road. Even the guys in the top 50 are great cowboys. They're all extremely talented. They're probably better than anybody you ever knew.
Yeah.
And then you get in, now you try to get in the top 15, and that's why when you have your moment, you have your calf, you have the good one, you have the good draw, the rough stock draw like explosive guys or whoever it may be that's a top rough stock animal, you've got to win checks. I mean, because they're not going to, I didn't do good on that one, we're going to give you another chance. Rodeo,
doesn't happen that way.
There's no timeouts, no substitutions. You just got to be ready to roll, and especially once the summer season starts. And the big things for those guys outside of what you speak of is staying healthy. Can they stay healthy? Because when you're not healthy, obviously you can't win checks.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and one we'll continue to watch as the summer run rolls on, heats up. It'll be fun, exciting, a lot of great things to talk about. We continue on with our short round, Tracy, and unfortunately we'd be remiss not to mention the passing of Cowboy Channel founder Patrick Gottsch. You know, he had such a substantial impact on the sport of rodeo, and obviously we lost him just this past weekend at 70 years old, and definitely a hit, you know, not only a hit to us and our interactions with Patrick and his staff at the Cowboy Channel, but the Western world as a whole. He really did rodeo, you know, a big favor.
Yeah, I mean, he passed away May 18th at 70, and I mean, 70's not really that old anymore. It's just shocking. I mean, you never see anything coming like that. And the biggest thing that Patrick did, just from my own opinion, is he got rodeo to be an ESPN channel, and he put us on TV all the time, the Western way of life I speak of. And once he did that, it changed the game. And then we were able to get a contract with him to have live NFR. We were always on with the NFR, but we were always on like a time buy, meaning we had to pay to be on TV, or it was on at 3 o'clock in the morning on ESPN. And I don't take anything away from the bigger channels, and even when we were on CBS Network. But when we got involved with Cowboy Channel, it was like watching a football game, an NFL game. It was live. Everything was live. And that changes everything. And then not only was the NFR live, Cheyenne, Pendleton, Salinas, all these big rodeos are live. And then all of a sudden, man, like, this is incredible. So it changed the game for us as the PRCA, because it put us on live TV, and it financially it boosted us. I mean, I'm just speaking the obvious, but just I never thought that would happen with rodeo, being that we'd be able to be on TV like that.
Yeah, some of the network televisions.
Right, and he was able to do it. And the biggest thing I say, if there's one word I would describe Patrick Gottsch, and I'm not alone in this, is a visionary. He did what no one thought could be done with rodeo.
Well, and you know, you mentioned that just a little bit. We mentioned that you have the Super Bowl, you have the NBA Finals, you have the Stanley Cup. You know, they're putting on shows and different things, but what Patrick, you know, and what his team did was a 10-hour pregame show leading up to the NFR. You know, it was the Super Bowl every single day for 10 nights, and, you know, that's just one of those things that, you know, won't be forgotten anytime soon. And then also 100 rodeos on 100 days, you know, bringing up those smaller rodeos that maybe don't get seen by people across the country, you know, bringing in advertising revenue to all of those different rodeo committees. So, you know, it's definitely had a lasting impact on the sport of rodeo. He'll be missed, you know, but I think he set a good foundation for the Cowboy Channel going forward, that, you know, they're going to continue to be able to grow this thing. And, you know, we send our thoughts and prayers to Patrick and everyone at the Cowboy Channel and Patrick's family.
Yeah, it's a tough loss. I mean, I can't even imagine it. I mean, it's so sudden and unexpected, but he'll never be forgotten in the rodeo community, that's for sure.
No doubt about that. Let's jump into our 8-question segment now, Tracy, and this is going to be a family that you're close with. You know, if anyone's wondering why we have a lot of steer ropers as our 8-question segment, it's because Tracy had a chance to go up to Torrington to the National Circuit Final steer roping, so you got to catch up with a lot of guys. So this one, Tracy, we're going to sit down with 2022 PRCA World Champion J. Tom Fisher.
Yeah, J. Tom The thing about J-Tom is he's got a great collection of cars that people don't know of, probably some great muscle cars, and he's a movie buff. Like, he knows everything about movies. And I think one of the questions is one of his movies, and I remember the answer, but I won't give it away. But J-Tom's just great. And the thing about J-Tom, his family's legendary in the steer roping thing, but he finally got the family the championship in 2022. And they're just great people. Vin, Dad Dan, and J-Tom. I mean, it's just an incredible family.
No doubt about it. Let's go to our 8 question segment with J-Tom Fisher.
Favorite movie?
Back to the Future.
Favorite restaurant?
The Stadium in Spearfish.
Favorite horse you've ever ridden?
Big Tex.
Favorite hobby outside of rodeo?
Basketball.
Favorite rodeo?
Pendleton.
Describe steer roping in one word.
Frustrating.
Favorite ice cream?
Vanilla.
Who would you pick to win a fight between Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee?
Chuck Norris. All day.
And Tracy, I think you had his favorite movie about nailed down there.
Isn't it Back to the Future? He loves that show. He's the one, when during COVID, I was the one I called him and I'm like, what shows can I watch? My wife watches a lot of TV and movies. And he's like, you got to watch 24. You got to watch 24. And my wife loved that show. And so anytime I want a movie recommendation or something that I wouldn't watch necessarily, I give him a text or a call, and he always gives me great information. But glad that Jake Tom could play along.
Yep, no doubt about it. That's going to do it for our first segment here on the Chute Bosses. As we mentioned at the top of the show, we're going to sit down with 2014 NFR bullfighter Chuck Swisher, talk a little bit about what he's doing in the arena and what he's doing out of it. He might be more busy outside of the arena. So we'll have all of that coming your way, as well as your NFR historic moment of the week. Much more coming your way right after the break.
Farm life means always hoping for the best, but planning for uncertainty. You have to be ready for the next everything, the next dawn, the next season, the next harvest, the next technology, the next challenge, and the next generation. No matter what comes your way, we can help keep you ready for the next.
Welcome back into the Chute Bosses. Tanner and Tracy. We're going to be joined by one of the good guys in the sport of rodeo, bullfighter Chuck Swisher is going to sit down with us towards our back half of the show as we do our featured interview like we do every single episode. But Tracy, we'll get things kicked off with our ProRodeo Hall of Fame spotlight. And what better? I don't think we've done this yet. But then a couple brothers. We go to 1997 inductees Gene and Bobby Clark. These brothers began their rodeo career as competitors, but then they quickly found their calling. Maybe we should be bullfighters. And then they said, hey, we're funny guys. We got some great props out here. Let's go ahead and be rodeo clowns too. And they just their career took off, and they kind of took the rodeo world by storm as like the original guys that started using some of these props.
Yeah, they were great at what they did, and they got recognized to be in the Hall of Fame. I know we've done stories in the PSN about them. It's been several years, but yeah, I mean, obviously you'd almost call them pioneers. I mean, a lot of the things they were doing, no one was doing before they were.
Yeah, and I read that some of the props that they had, they were building coffins, like bringing stuff out into the arena. They were doing all these cool things.
You can imagine the visionary stuff to think about that stuff back then. I mean, they were doing stuff way back when in it's been ages ago.
Yeah, well, can you imagine, telling the rodeo committee, hey, I'm going to bring this out. My brother's going to come out of this coffin. Then I have them, that type of thing to try and get them to accept that, no doubt about it. And these were two guys that, they worked anywhere and everywhere that you can imagine. Madison Square Garden, the Boston Garden, Fort Worth, Dallas, Houston, you name it. These guys were there, and they were the big names that really, drew people to rodeos at that time.
Yeah, and I mean, I couldn't even imagine going to Madison Square Garden, how cool that would be. But
for a rodeo, especially.
For rodeo, and they became a big draw. They were probably part of the draw because they were something that no one else had seen before.
Yeah, all across the country. So there's your ProRodeo Hall of Fame spotlight. We shine it on Gene and Bobby Clark. Let's do something that we kicked off just a couple weeks ago, Tracy, and let's get fired up here. We'll go over to Andrew. He's at the controls of our main studio here in the PRCA headquarters, and we'll go to your historic NFR moment of the week. We're going to pause our talk, and we're going to crank up this audio. Here is Super Sid Steiner, 2002 Las Vegas.
All the way to the 10th round, and it's whoever can handle it is going to walk away here with a title. And Sid's got a good catch. Oh, I don't know what's going to happen. 3.3. He's clean. And he's clean at the barrier. Holy cow, what a run.
And you can see the Las Vegas faithful there, Tracy. They were fired up. Super Sid Steiner, man. Dude looks identical to Rocker right there.
Yeah, he's just the mannerism, just looking at it. But imagine how fast is that run?
3-3.
I mean, 3-3 is smoking at the NFR. The record at the NFR is 3-0. But 3-3, I mean, everything came together for him there. And you call him Super Sid. You got to get it right, baby. Sid Rock.
There you go, Trey.
Sid Rock. He had a big feature in the PSN years ago, and watching this run. I mean, you've seen enough steer wrestling, Tanner. Like it just. The thing is he got off his horse so fast, but just everything came together. It's one thing to get off fast, but then 3-3, you imagine is just the blood pumping in his veins, because that's what clinched the world title for him.
Well, that was round 10, Tracy.
Yeah.
He not only, cemented his name in NFR history forever, but that also won him the NFR average title that year. Went on to win his first and only gold buckle. And, that's just kind of, a historic moment from him, because I believe he called it a career after that, correct?
Yeah, shortly after.
Yeah.
He like his dad, Bobby. Bobby won a world title in bull riding, and shortly after just said, I'm good. I'm good at their prime. And, I mean, imagine being able to retire in your prime, but to get to that level, to be, the best of the best in the world.
Yeah, now Bobby and Sid, both having a chance to be right there and support Rocker, their son and their grandson, a chance to chase a gold buckle himself, and he's been right there in the mix the last couple of years. So just an overall historic moment there at the NFR. The crowd loved it. Sid Rock, as Tracy likes to call him, loved it.
And the thing that I love, and I know I'm partial to this for anybody, is just the reaction of Sid. Because and I know Barry Sanders was always quoted as saying, when you get to the end zone, act like you've been there before and hand it. But the excitement and getting the crowd involved, I mean, it just makes it such an electric environment, especially for rodeo, especially in Vegas of all places.
Yeah, and his son Rocker does the exact same thing. After a really good ride, he'll come out, get the crowd fired up. So there's a good historic NFR moment. We'll continue to bring you those moments that have really, left their mark on Las Vegas over the years. Andrew does a good job of finding those videos for us and has allowing us to come on here and spotlight those.
I thought a cool thing as well, he said he always wondered how it felt to win a gold buckle, and after that 10th round, he went up to his dad and said, now I know how it feels. And another cool fact, too, is his horse that he rode throughout the season, Slim Shady, was actually hurt going into the NFR, and he had to ride a replacement horse called Boss, but Boss got a foot abscess, and he had to ride Slim Shady the last 3 rounds. He won 2 of those rounds and placed in all 3, so I thought it was like kind of a poetic moment right there where everything kind of lined up for him exactly how he needed it to.
Well, it's all about the horsepower. And I just imagine winning a gold buckle and your dad's in the stands. Your dad's there with you who won a gold buckle. I just couldn't imagine how cool it would be.
Was Rocker born then?
Now, Rocker's only 21, so...
it would have been close.
Yeah, he'd be 23, 22.
I'm not even sure how old Sid is. So.
Yeah, I don't know. Math wasn't my forte.
I can tell.
I'm adding numbers backwards in my head. Yeah, I don't think so. I think it was super close.
No doubt about it. But that's a cool moment. We'll continue bringing you those moments. Let's get into our viewer question. This one comes from Amanda on Facebook. Tracy, she wants to know, how many locations has the National Circuit Finals Rodeo or the NFR Open been held? As far as just certain locations, we go to the number 6. We have to go all the way back to 1987, Pocatello, Idaho. That's where things kind of really got kicked off for circuit guys.
Yeah, and they used to sell that place out, and it was a great venue. And then they had some things happen that had nothing to do with the rodeo world about using the facility is why it eventually moved, and then it's moved around since then. If I'm thinking right, it went to Oklahoma City.
Yep.
And then it went to Guthrie.
You got it. Come on, keep going.
Then it went to Kissimmee.
Yep.
Then it was a year in Greeley because of COVID. And now we're at the NFR Open in Colorado Springs.
Oh, they went back to Kissimmee.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Dang.
They went back to Kissimmee, and then they went,
So I'll give you about a 96%. You didn't do too bad.
Better than any test score I ever got.
Yeah, better than any test score that Buck has ever got in his career as well. And, I think his word of the week was college last week. We know that's probably never going to happen for Buck. But, maybe he has a future doing something else. I don't know.
Yeah, Buck's got. I like where Buck's headed. Buck's biggest problem he's got going on in his life now is his love life's just DOA. And you look at Buck, I mean, he doesn't dental floss with a rope, but he's about headed there.
No doubt about it. Let's go down to Buck. He's got your Pro Rodeo Word of the Day.
I'm Buck, official correspondent of the Chute Bosses, the official podcast of the PRCA. My word for the day is guard, as in guards maintain the peace at the NFR. When it comes to Buck and the word guard, I was talking to this little lady friend, and I let my guard down, off guard, and then all of a sudden she kicked me to the curb. What happened? Looks like it's another night in Heartbreak Hotel for Buck. I can check out anytime I want, but I can never leave.
In 1936, a group of cowboys and cowgirls came together for the common good of rodeo. They accomplished a feat that sparked a fire of greatness in countless Western athletes. Today, the Western lifestyle burns on in our contestants' and fans' hearts and souls. We aim to preserve the cowboy code and keep the Western lifestyle alive. Together as one, we are Pro Rodeo.
Welcome back into the Chute Bosses podcast. And Tracy, we talked about a little bit off the show. We're going to sit down with Pro Rodeo bullfighter Chuck Swisher. You know, I think he made a trip to the NFR in 2014. But just to talk to him a little bit about, you know, what that profession is like on that side of things, but also, you know, what he does in his downtime from the sport of rodeo.
Yeah, I mean, obviously what he does is crazy and dangerous and cool. And, you know, what do you do outside the arena? We want to get to know Chuck a little bit.
And Chuck's joining us right now here on the show. Chuck, we appreciate your time, man. We know you're busy with a lot of things going on outside of rodeo, so we appreciate you taking a couple minutes.
Yeah, you bet. Glad to be on here, guys. How's it going?
Doing well, man. Just getting ready for a busy summer run. I know that you probably have some things coming up as well. First thing we want to talk to you about, Chuck, is, you know, how did you get your start in the sport of rodeo? You know, and why bullfighting of all things? Because some people might think you're crazy.
Yeah, no, totally. I get that a lot. So whenever I was probably 15 years old, I think I came across a picture of my dad riding bulls. He used to ride bulls a long time ago, and he actually retired before I was born. And I think I was probably 14 or 15, and I came across a picture, and I was like, dang, I want to be like my dad. You know, I want to ride bulls. So my parents, they actually bought everything I needed to ride bulls, or steers, I guess, at the time. And whenever it came down to it, I was too scared. I was like, maybe riding bulls isn't really for me. So at the time, I was a freshman in high school, grew up in a small town, Dover, Oklahoma. There's 300 people in the entire town, so you know everybody and their dog. But there was a senior that was in the same school, and he was the only other cowboy of the school. And I was like, well, I'm a cowboy, or I want to be a cowboy. He's a cowboy. What does he do? And he actually fought bulls. So at the time, I was like, well, I told my parents maybe I should become a bullfighter instead of a bull rider. And they actually took me to a bullfighting school. They taught me the basics, and I've been fighting bulls for 18 years now. So I guess that paid off.
So you talk about that. What was it like the moment you got selected to go to the NFR in 2014? And I mean, I can't imagine the goosebumps and just the electric feel when you're at the Thomas and Mack.
Oh yeah. So that's obviously anybody's goal. That's any rodeo athlete, you know, is to be able to go to the finals. And I was pretty young. I think I was maybe 2 or 3 years on my card. And so I didn't really think it was possible, let alone have any hope for it. But that was kind of always the dream, you know. And whenever they called, you know, it was a huge shocker. I was so excited. I think I actually dropped to my knees, crying my eyes out. I called everybody in my phone book, even if I didn't talk to them for 15 years. But I made sure everybody knew that I got selected to work the national finals. And I'm not gonna lie, I was a nervous wreck probably for the however many months building up to it. It's funny looking back now. It's just like any other rodeo, obviously just a different place and more lights. But I remember walking down the tunnel one day, or the first performance, walking down the tunnel from the locker room to the arena, and I swear they put 15 trash cans along the way. And I probably hurled or laid over each and every trash can trying to throw up. I was dry heaving on every trash can, and I'll never forget it. I get to the very last trash can, and there's a security guard standing right there by it. And he never looks down. He's just looking straight, got his arms crossed in front of him. And I kind of look up at him. He said, you know, Joe Bumgardner, he used to puke in those trash cans too. So he said, I think you're in good company. And I was like, all right, now we're doing it. And we stepped right into the arena, and it was just like any other rodeo. You get to, like, right whenever I step foot into the arena, all the lights, all the fans, all the nerves and everything, the emotions just disappear, and it's just time to go to work.
Chuck, how much do you think you've learned over your career? You mentioned 18 years fighting bulls, but, what did it take to reach that summit and, be the best of the best?
It's crazy to think I've been fighting bulls for more than half of my life. So I've learned everything through bullfighting. I started when I was 15, like I said, and I'm about to be 34 years old, which is, to me, an old man. And, it takes a lot of work, a lot of sacrifice. There's times where I've missed best friends' weddings, birthdays, funerals. I've missed so much. And that's just kind of the sacrifice, the nature of the beast, being a rodeo cowboy. You can't really call San Antonio and say, hey, I'm going to take the week off. You guys cover for me. They're like, well, if you're not going to be here this week, you're not going to be here the rest of the weeks, type of thing. So it's one of those things where you kind of got to just buck up and get the job done. And you got to make those sacrifices, and thankfully I've had such a great family behind me. My wife is the most amazing person ever. And then just all my rodeo friends and family knew that have just helped me along the way. I've had so many people that have constantly reached out and asked if I needed anything, or gave me a ride, or let me stay at their house, or anything. I remember my uncle, whenever I was just first starting out and the rodeos wouldn't get me a hotel room, he'd always show up at those rodeos and he'd buy me dinner and get me a hotel room and stuff like that. So it truly does take a village to be able to do this. And it's crazy to me to think that I'm just a bullfighter. All I had to worry about is a gear bag. I couldn't imagine hauling a horse or two and a big truck and trailer, So props to those contestants, because those guys really have a village behind them.
Within bullfighting, I know different sports, it's like hand-eye coordination. There's certain things that make you really good at something. Obviously, you're really good at bullfighting. What would you pinpoint that you have to do well if you have any hope of being a good bullfighter, outside of getting over the danger involved with it?
Yeah, so I always tell everybody it's such a dangerous job, such a dangerous career, and it's a game of inches, and it happens so fast that you don't have time to think. So you have to react. So it comes down to like those quick twitch muscles. And like whenever something's going on, you can't sit back and think, I should probably be going that way. You should already be going that way before you ever even think about it, So you definitely got to react to it. And you got to try and pretty much read the future. You got to see what the animal's doing and just try to beat him there.
One thing I got to ask you, obviously you guys spend a lot of time going down the road. You have rodeos here and there, Chuck, but what do you enjoy doing outside of the arena? Give us a look on what you enjoy doing and what you make a living doing.
It depends. If I'm on the road, I love fly fishing. I love being in the mountains. I love camping, hiking, adventuring. I'm a foodie. I love going to the local mom and pop shops. My wife and I, we actually made a pact when she first started going with me that we wouldn't eat at any place that we can eat at home while we're on the road. So we got to find the little local places. I love to meet new people. I love to do new things. I enter some triathlons. We run a beef business at home. We have some rental properties. We've got a bunch of cattle turned out. So really, like, rodeo is my paid vacation now. And whenever I'm home, I'm working. So it's really nice to be able to go and rodeo and kind of get away from the house.
For sure.
With the beef company, you got to do beef jerky, right? I'm a beef jerky connoisseur.
So we're kind of dabbling in it a little bit. We're not Bobby T status yet, but sooner or later, Bobby T better watch his back because we're coming for him.
I like that, Chuck. You mentioned your beef company just a little bit. How important is it for you to find that balance between what you're doing in your, at home and Charles still trying to go out on the road and hit a couple rodeos when you can?
Yeah, so whenever I was 15 years old, when I first started, I was like, all right, I'm going to fight bulls till I'm 90, and then when I'm done fighting bulls, I'm just going to die, and that's going to be it, And then probably 27, 28 years old, I'm like, holy crap, it kind of hurts to wake up in the morning anymore, And then I'm thinking, I'm not going to be able to fight bulls forever, so I was like, I need a plan B. And whenever I was 17 years old, I actually used to work on a trash truck. I was the guy who held on the back of the truck. When the truck stopped, I ran and grabbed the trash can and dumped it in the truck. And I told myself, I said, if I'm ever going to start a business, it's going to be something that people always need. You know, you might not always need a computer guy, but sooner or later, you're always going to need to eat. So I was like, what can we do that people always need? So I was like, let's start selling beef. People always got to eat. And then that was kind of the plan B for rodeo. You know, I said, when I retire, beef's going to be the thing that pays the bills and keeps us going. And then I was like, well, if I'm already doing this, why don't I get some more things, have some more irons in the fire, so maybe I can retire sooner and retire easier than what I think. So then I was like, well, what else do people need? I was like, well, one, they got to eat something. Two, they got to have somewhere to live. So I was like, well, let's buy some rental properties. And so we're just keep on stacking and stacking. And it's a lot of work, you know, but at the end of the day, I'm the kind of guy that's, if I'm home for too long, I go stir crazy. If I'm gone for too long, I go stir crazy. So I kind of always need to be doing something, need to be going and having some kind of thing to do. And that's why, like I mentioned earlier, I might have to cut out here soon to go and fill up a drill for a pasture we're planting, just because I've got 1,000 irons in the fire. But I do my best to reel it in every now and then and try to stay focused. But thankfully, my wife is really good about keeping me in check.
So are you a good landlord or a bad landlord?
Oh, I'm the best landlord. We actually, so it comes in perfect, you know, having the beef company. So for Christmas and stuff, we'll take our tenants boxes of beef and thank you, or like as a thank you for them staying in our rent houses and taking care of everything. And I do my best to have our rent houses as a place that I would want to live myself. We don't want to be slumlords, so we try to take care of everything and have everything nice. And it's probably not near nice enough for Chris to live in because he's pretty bougie, but they're pretty darn nice.
And we had Chris on last week, and I don't know, we lost about half our viewers when Thulin came on. So
it's a good thing you guys called me to have me on to bring him back around.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I need to find a way to find myself in one of those Swisher properties. But we know you got to run here shortly, Chuck. So just tell everybody out there, you know, what your schedule looks like coming up. Are you hitting any rodeos here this summer?
Yeah, so we actually got 2 more weeks off, I believe, and then we go to Woodward, Oklahoma for the Woodward Elks Rodeo, 1st of June. And then we go right into Greeley, Colorado. And then actually got the call the other day to go and judge the bullfighters only in Salinas. So we'll go out to Salinas and then Joseph, Oregon, and Idaho Falls, Sykeston, Missouri. So we're it's about to get hot and heavy. And Chuck Swisher's going to have to take it easy on the working for a little bit because I'm going to be working rodeos. So,
yeah.
Sounds good, Chuck. When you were in Sykeston, did you go throw rolls at anybody?
Oh, yeah. We've been to that place 100,000 times. And the worst part about that place is nobody warns you how many appetizers they give you before you get a huge plate of food. So every time we go in there, we get a huge thing of appetizers and get so full. And then they bring out the huge steak or whatever you order. So then you're like, I can't even eat this thing. So you're eating leftovers for 3 or 4 days there in Sykeston from Lambert's. And yeah, the whole roll throwing deal is pretty cool. It's quite the adventure for sure.
Well, Chuck, we can't bring you on here and not let you shout out and you know what you got going on, and where can people find you at if they're interested in some of that Swisher beef, or heck, even want to live in one of the rentals you got.
Yeah, so you guys, I've got Instagram, Facebook. I'm pretty terrible at both. CSwish116 is both of those. Swisher Beef Co. on Instagram and Facebook as well. You can follow along. I'm an open book. I love anything investing. So if anybody ever has any questions about real estate or anything like that, my wife's also a realtor. Shout out to Carolyn. But yeah, we're always down rodeo, real estate, and beef. We're the team.
I love it, man. Well, Chuck, we can't thank you enough, man. We know you're busy and got a lot going on, but thanks for jumping on here with us.
You bet. Thank you, guys. Hope you all have a great day.
Yeah,
thank you. We'll let Chuck go and do what he does, Tracy. But you can just see that guy not only loves rodeo, but he's thinking beyond rodeo, you know, and a lot of especially professional athletes, don't think beyond their sport at times.
Right. Well, they just get caught in the moment, and they're so used to the moment, and they're used to living a lifestyle. And all of a sudden, when the lights turn off and they retire from it, it's like, what do I do next? And how do I get that income to do what I like to do? And give him credit. I mean, I can guarantee he's probably putting in 16-hour days being a landlord and running a beef company and rodeo. And I mean, rodeo itself is busy. So kudos to him. And his personality, I'd met Chuck a few times.
I talked to him at San Antonio a lot. He's hilarious.
But I never got that vibe. That he's really vibrant and charismatic, and I mean, he's great to have on the show for sure.
Yeah, if you're hanging around Chris Thulin, you got to have a couple of screws loose. But no, we can't appreciate Chuck enough for jumping here on the show. And like we've always said, you can get interacted with the Chute Bosses on our Instagram page now. Go on there, ask us questions, and maybe we'll pull it up on the show. Post stuff that you think we should talk about, and we'll make sure to get you all involved and just do the best we can to make this an interactive podcast here about Pro Rodeo and everything that goes along here as we get ready for a busy summer month. But Tracy, it's another good show in the books, and can believe it or not, June's right around the corner.
Yeah, but now it's the craziness. Once Reno begins, our season starts too. I mean, it starts way before that, but once Reno gets rolling, we get jam-packed. But there's nothing better than being busy.
No doubt about it. That's going to do it for another episode of the Chute Bosses. We appreciate you all. Jump on our YouTube channel. Check all of that out. Also, we're on all your favorite streaming platforms. That's going to do it for this episode. Until the next one, keep on rodeoing.